Itachi Uchiha, one of the strongest and most versatile fighters in the Naruto series. Many of the fans, as well as a couple people in the series and the manga itself, refer to Itachi as the Shadow Hokage, or the Hokage of the Shadows, the protector of the village from the darkness. And so today we're going to discuss, like, if Itachi had been Hokage, where he would rank in the Hokage tiers of the Hidden Village. And today I got my good buddy DygoKnight back with me. Say hey, everybody.
We're back. What's up, guys?
I haven't done an Itachi video in a while, so I thought this was pretty good. I couldn't even tell you why I thought to do this one. I think it was a Reddit. I was reading as a Reddit thread, and people were saying who they thought Itachi would beat in the Hokage lineup and who he would lose to. So here we are today. Me and Daigo were discussing it for about 15 to 30 minutes about who we thought Itachi could beat and who he would lose to amongst the Hokage. So, and we're talking all the Hokage, excluding Shikamaru because he's in the Boruto era, and we're just kind of talking about,
which is not canon.
Exactly. So we're just gonna be talking about the Hokages 1 through 6, and then 7 for Naruto. But honestly, we'll just go ahead and get the easier ones out of the way because it's Naruto. I just don't see. Come on, guys, do we really have to spend even a minute for this? Like, no shit on Itachi, but this is Naruto Uzumaki. Come on, y'all.
In Naruto Shippuden, Itachi kind of soloed Naruto with a base genjutsu, so you never know.
That is true. That is true. Yeah, you know what? Maybe Kurama would feel lazy. Maybe Kurama would feel lazy that day and just not even bother to help him out.
Yeah.
It's gotten
the only far-fetched way I can see is Tsukiyomi and Naruto gets tortured by like 4 years or something like that, and then he passes out of the exhaustion. But even like the other hacks abilities, Amaterasu can dodge it, Totsuka Blade can dodge it, and he can create like 5,000 shadow clones that can fight against Kage level opponents to just swarm Itachi. Like, there's nothing Itachi can do.
Yeah. So now we'll go on to like the ones that we are are a little bit more worth talking about. But real quick, before we start, we are talking about a hypothetical healthy Itachi. Yes, I know you're probably typing in the comments, we don't know what a hypothetical healthy Itachi is like. You're 100% correct. I know that. Past videos of mine that I've covered Itachi in, when I've tried to make as healthy as he can get, I always try to use the reference point of 5 Kage Summit Sasuke in terms of Sharingan use and chakra duration, not strength and skill, because obviously Itachi is above 5 Kage Summit Sasuke in terms of strength and skill. But when it comes to Sharingan use and his chakra reserves, I think it's a fair estimate because at the tippity top shape that Sasuke was in when he first entered the 5 Kage Summit, he was going to town for a while during that fight. He lasted a good bit, and yes, there was a couple instances where he got healed and whatnot, but all that said, it's still crazy impressive how long Sasuke was lasting against 5 Kage back to back. So I think, in my opinion, 5 Kage Summit Sasuke is a good reference point to use when it comes to how long he can last in a fight and how long his Sharingan can hold out. What would you say, Daigo?
Yeah, that's a fair estimation. Obviously, as you said, it's not, we're not basing Itachi's strength as a hypothetical healthy version into MS Sasuke could do in the 5 Kage Summit, because it would be kind of ridiculous. But it's pretty fair because at the end of the 5 Kage Summit, Sasuke awakened the full Susanoo with the armor and stuff, and he didn't go blind like Itachi went blind in the fight against Sasuke, but he was losing a lot of his eyesight, and it's pretty fair estimation. Sasuke and Itachi were always compared to be, pretty similar tiers of strength in Naruto Shippuden, so it's probably the best way we can, gauge his strength.
Yeah, so going on from there, we'll now cover Hashirama, the first Hokage, because he is, again, like Naruto, pretty easily just go ahead and get this one out of the way because, again, like Naruto, it's a pretty clear stomp. There is a way that Itachi could pull out a win, and it is Tsukiyomi, because as strong as Hashirama is, Tsukiyomi is Tsukiyomi, and it's nothing to play with. So, if Itachi is able to get Hashirama with Tsukiyomi, even if he did get him with Tsukiyomi, I don't think Tsukiyomi is going to actually kill Hashirama, but it obviously does provide an opening to either use Amaterasu or Totsuka Blade.
Yeah, I can even see a world where Hashirama shrugs off at Tsukiyomi, because he was, built different. But, yeah, if we're talking about other hacks abilities that Itachi would have access to, the Totsuka Blade, if he hits Hashirama with it, it's GG, I suppose, but I don't think he's hitting Hashirama with that any day.
No.
And Amaterasu, that's dangerous if Hashirama gets hit, but, I don't see him getting hit either. He can block it with a wood-style barrier, or maybe even dodge it, because he was fast enough to compete with Madara in terms of speed. And even if he gets hit, if he hits an arm or a leg, he can, do, the right Kage, chop it off, and move on. He'll eventually regenerate. Yeah.
We were literally just joking about that earlier. He probably would just, cut it off like it's a haircut or something like that. He probably wouldn't even care. So yeah, I agree. I think, again, like I said earlier, I think it's a hair hair of a chance, but his best bet would be to get a split-second Tsukuyomi in enough time to poke him with the Totsuka blade and seal him. That's all he can do, but even that said, I think I don't know. It's really, really tough to get Hashirama in a Genjutsu, because we never even seen Madara put
we're grasping at straws here. This is the same argument people would make for Itachi versus Madara, but like, we know Itachi wouldn't beat them like at all.
Moving safely along, we're gonna go on to Tobirama now. Now this one is kind of like, I don't know. Tobirama is Tobirama, y'all. I think Tobirama is probably the most controversial in terms of power scaling when people come to the Hokage, but I don't know, man. I don't really see too much that Tobirama necessarily can do. Now, here's the thing. FTG is still a problem, right? But it's getting the mark on Itachi. That's with someone who's is not as finesse with it as, you know, a later Hokage that we're gonna talk about. But I don't know. I mean, Daigo, you got any like ideas of how like Tobirama can take this fight?
Tobirama, he's definitely not as fast as Minato is, for example, but he's experienced. He has the Shadow Clone Jutsu, but when we talk about this hypothetical healthy Itachi, even flying Raijin is not, you know, the worst thing in the world for Itachi to deal with, because, I mean, I don't think Tobirama would be able to mark Itachi so soon in the fight. Like, he would have to use the kunais at first to try and get close, and if that happens, as soon as Tobirama gets close to Itachi, he can activate a ribcage of the Susanoo that has, you know, instant activation, block any possible attacks that Hashirama throws against him, because let's be real here, Hashirama does not have any hard-hitting attacks, especially as an alive version, because he cannot use the multiplying explosive tags, as, you know, that jutsu is meant for Enedo Tensei to use, and that's certainly the most powerful in terms of just like punch jutsu that he had. Like, he literally was fighting revived Madara with a kunai instead of trying something more powerful. I don't really see the guy, you know, cracking the ribcage of the Susanoo anytime soon, unless he approaches Itachi, engages in a taijutsu fight, manages not to get caught in a genjutsu like Tsukuyomi or even a base Sharingan genjutsu or hit by a Amaterasu, and then touches Itachi, marking him. Could he do that? Possibly. He marked Obito in his, like, you know, debilitated state when he wasn't thinking properly, but like, Itachi's seeing those things, and if he has intel on what Tobirama can do, like on flying Raijin, he's definitely not gonna let Tobirama touch him.
I think people might think that's giving Itachi too much credit in terms of knowledge, but there was an instant, and granted this was technically filler, but I think it could lend credence to the idea that, you know, Itachi would have at least surface level knowledge of Tobirama's abilities. It was in one of the fillers, I think it might have been in Itachi's backstory filler arc, where Deidara and Sasori were sent to try to kill Orochimaru, and Orochimaru used the reanimated third Kazekage. And when they asked Itachi about it later on, Itachi remarked that, oh, it's probably the second Hokage's reanimation jutsu, implying that he knows a good bit about Tobirama, at least, you know, on a good surface level knowledge of his abilities. So it's probably likely, and as resourceful as Itachi is, it's probably likely that he knows that Tobirama probably invented the Shadow Clone Jutsu and the Flying Raijin Jutsu and whatnot. So, I mean, it's not too out of the realm of possibility that he would probably have prior knowledge, but likewise, though, Tobirama would likely not have as much knowledge on Itachi's abilities as Itachi
and I'm
would have
not
on
necessarily
his.
even talking about Itachi having prior knowledge of Tobirama's abilities, because if Itachi sees him using Flying Raijin one time, he's probably going to break down the whole ability. This is what Itachi is famous for. Like, he stares at Chibaku Tensei and comes up with a counter in seconds, so he probably wouldn't let Tobirama touch him to mark Itachi, because that's probably the best win condition for Tobirama here. Or make Itachi run out of chakra, which is definitely something doable, because Tobirama, being a Senju, has a lot of chakra, and even a healthy Itachi, even though like people really underestimate the amount of chakra Itachi has, because if you look at the Itachi versus Sasuke fight when he was sick, he was using a lot of jutsus. He was killing Orochimaru, he was using the Susanoo, he was spamming Amaterasu, he was using Tsukuyomi, so he has some chakra. Like, it's not as though he's gonna run out in 2 seconds, but Tobirama certainly would have more than him.
And even though Tobirama is not as finesse with Flying Raijin as Minato, with the amount of chakra that Tobirama does have, he could run the clock out theoretically while Itachi's, you know, spamming his jutsus. But I just feel like, and in terms of being a tactician, like, Tobirama is smart, but I've always felt that Tobirama is more of the scientist rather than a tactician. Not to say he can't use tactics, I'm pretty sure he could, but on the flip side of that, we see Itachi just like on a god level when it comes to tactics and whatnot, and like careful planning. So I feel as though if I had to, as far as being a strategist and a tactician, I'd probably put Itachi above Tobirama, in which case I feel as though with having knowledge of his abilities, even if it is surface level, I don't know, I feel like Itachi would probably be able to catch Tobirama lacking in a, you know, quick tactic or whatnot. And we're not saying that Tobirama is like can't win like at all, but all in all, we're probably going to give this one to Itachi excuse me. I'd say about 7 to 8 out of 10. Daigo, what
Yeah,
you got?
I think 8 out of 10 is probably fair. Maybe a little bit more to Itachi's side. But I really don't like some things that Tobirama did, like losing to Ginkaku and Kinkaku and their squadron. That's never really shown how it happened. So yeah, maybe you can argue he was completely out of chakra. He was just like a sacrificial pawn so that his teammates could escape. But it just rubs me the wrong way. Like when you see those two guys in the war arc, they're absolute trash. And the second Hokage died to them. So I don't know. And then again, when he fights against Obito, he's pretty impressive. So it's very contradictory.
Yeah, Tobirama is an anomaly for some people. So moving right along to Hiruzen, the third Hokage. Now, here's the thing. We were going to talk about a hypothetical prime Hiruzen, but unlike Itachi, who we kind of have a reference point for, we don't really have a reference point. I mean, I guess Edo is kind of a reference point, but I mean, let's be honest, Hiruzen doesn't really do a whole lot as an Edo. Well, we don't see a whole lot of feats that could like possibly give us a reference point to use him as for prime. I
guess you could say that he would have more chakra, be more powerful physically speaking, faster and stuff, and just use the Shadow Clone Jutsu much more often, kind of like he was doing against the Buddha statue in the war arc as a Neto. This is what even the Anbu they were watching the fight against Orochimaru were saying, oh, he just used the Shadow Clone Jutsu now, but that's dangerous when he was about to use the Reaper Death Seal. And they even remarked that Hiruzen used to, implement that jutsu much more when he was younger, when he had more chakra. But we can assume that, I guess, that he would like be able to use like 5, 10 Shadow Clones at the same time and use pretty powerful jutsus with them. The problem that I see here is that Hiruzen is never really shown to have something powerful enough to like even dent Itachi Susanoo, and I think the most powerful thing he would be able to use is Enma's staff, which was able to push the Nine Tails out of the Leaf Village during the Nine Tails attack, but it didn't like do damage per se to the Nine Tails, it just pushed it away. So I think even if he hit Itachi with that, he could activate the Susanoo, and the Susanoo would tank it. At worst, he would probably crack the Susanoo with it, but
that's even if Itachi gets hit with it, because Itachi does have the Sharingan, so it's a possibility he probably just dodge it before it even gets to that point. I mean, or like, heck, if he's launching the staff at him, Itachi can just Amaterasu Enma as it's like being launched at him. Yeah, that would
be terrible for Enma.
I know. So I mean, like I said, Hiruzen has a plethora of jutsu, right? So like, I don't want to like just downplay his arsenal and say that he doesn't have something that could, worry Itachi or like, theoretically damage Itachi and his Susanoo, but we just haven't seen anything that's, on that level. So it's really tough for me to like say, and I told Daigo, like, I think in the best case, especially if this is prime Hiruzen, it's maybe a lot more likely that if Itachi fights with even just a little bit of the restraint and doesn't use the Susanoo either at all or just, not that much or not the bigger version, best case is if a prime Hiruzen is quick enough to use the Reaper Death Seal. With him being younger, it may not take as much strain to just yeet Itachi's soul right out of him. But on the flip side of that,
still,
Itachi,
so
on the flip side
he
of
would
that,
die.
but even that though, like Itachi could maybe just use the skeletal Susanoo to just create distance between him and Hiruzen.
Orochimaru was able to use his jutsu to bring the Kusanagi sword to Hiruzen while his soul was being dragged out. So sure, he didn't do more with it. I guess you get like a stun effect when you were under that jutsu. So I don't know if Itachi would just be able to look at Hiruzen when he's like really close to him and, blast the Amaterasu at blank range.
In which case, even if somehow Hiruzen survived either the Amaterasu or, Itachi still uses Susanoo to create distance, as soon as you activate the Reaper Death Seal, you're dead. So, I mean, it doesn't really matter one way or the other. So, unfortunately, I mean, even if it is prime Hiruzen, I mean, maybe we're sleeping on, maybe like prime Hiruzen is like super fast or something that like, Itachi's Amaterasu wouldn't catch him or like.
But even if he was known for his speed, he would be like famous for it, like Minato was, for instance. So sure, he maybe was pretty fast for a shinobi of that caliber, but Itachi is also pretty fast. So it wouldn't be something that would eclipse Itachi in terms of speed. Yeah, I don't really see Hiruzen taking this.
I don't either. So I'd give this one to Itachi. I'd say about 8.
Oh, I'd say more than that. I think out of 100 times, Hiruzen wins once or twice. I don't know.
No. Oh no. I'd
say the difference is pretty similar to how much Hashirama stomps Itachi is how much Itachi stomps Hiruzen.
I could see, like, I want to agree. I just feel bad if I feel like I'm underestimating prime Hiruzen, because I don't know, like, this man's golden, like, goated, in his prime days, but like, you have
to analyze how Itachi took care of Hiruzen's most talented pupil, the guy that killed him, and it was probably the most humiliating fight in the whole series.
Yeah. So I mean,
I don't really see much of a chance for Hiruzen here.
Yeah, I'll stick with the 8 if it just in giving some kind of lack to Prime Hiruzen. I'll give him something, but I'm kind of like sort of in agreement with you. Like I want to give it more to Itachi, but it's like there's something that hold me back because of how goated Prime Hiruzen was said to be. So, but I'll stick with the 8 out of 10. But yeah, Itachi has a pretty clear win. Going on to Minato. Now, I'm pretty sure that me and Daigo have both talked about this in the past on our respective channels, but I mean,
yeah, I think I have like one of my oldest videos is Itachi versus Minato, so
same.
Don't watch that video. It's probably cringe.
No, I don't say that. No, but I did do a video of this not too long ago, and I mean, you can watch. I'll put a link for that video if you want to watch it, but we'll discuss it here. But yeah, here's the thing: is unlike Tobirama that we're talking about, who said we did say that like even with Flying Raijin, with Tobirama's use of it, it may not be as big a deal. But this time, we have somebody who is just so finesse with it that again, like I mean, okay, so Tobirama was hailed as like the fastest in his time, right? But like Minato was given a speed nickname on him and was also had a flee on sight warning on him solely due to Flying Thunder God. So it's like if that doesn't tell you how much more like finesse that Minato, and I'm not trying to sound redundant, I know this is like been a topic of discussion for years now that like, oh, you know, Tobirama self-admitted that Minato is better at Flying Raijin than he is. And so I mean, yes, it's clear cut, but I just don't think people understand like how much better like at this jutsu that Minato is in Tobirama.
Yeah, this jutsu was like Minato's Kamui like to Obito. He pretty much made his career using one jutsu, and it made him one of the most powerful ninjas that ever lived. So it's a very powerful jutsu, both offensively and defensively, and he can spam it very much so. Minato doesn't have as much chakra as Tobirama, for instance, but still, like, it doesn't take a lot of chakra for him to use the Flying Raijin. Can use it, you know, willy-nilly, killing several people in the process, spamming here. You know, every time he's in a fight, he's using that jutsu non-stop pretty much. And I think this fight is very interesting. Like, Itachi versus Minato would be a very strategic fight that would probably last for a while. Like, there's a chance Itachi, like, catches Minato in a genjutsu right at the gate. If Minato is not careful, you can make that argument, sure, but I don't think it would happen. And even if, for instance, Itachi catches him on a base Sharingan genjutsu or an ephemeral genjutsu, there's a chance Minato's good enough at genjutsu to resist or break out of it. And even if he's not, you know, there's a chance, you know, Itachi can capitalize on that and kill Minato while he's affected. Or, you know, if Minato takes too long to break out of it, Itachi can also come in and kill Minato. But I just don't think it would be easy to catch Minato under a genjutsu because of the famous Madara/Raikage genjutsu feat where Madara had to grab the Raikage with a Susanoo in order to cast an ocular genjutsu because the Raikage is really fast. If he didn't have to grab the Raikage, I don't think he would have, you know, just because there's no reason for him to do that if he didn't want to cast the genjutsu.
I mean, granted, like, I mean, the Raikage was under some pressure with dealing with 5 Susanos at the same time. So, like, that's, for people who use that argument, that's fair, but still, like, Madara still felt the need to try to grab him first before, like, in order to use the genjutsu instead of just outright trying to do that, you know, on the, I mean, it's like, again, if you, go ahead.
And even narratively speaking, just giving this quote-unquote nerve to ocular genjutsu is a good thing because, oh, you can't just, like, look at somebody that's really fast and catch him under a genjutsu because it's not as simple. The chakra has to travel that distance and reach the person. If the person is fast enough to dodge it, then he's not going to be he's not going to get caught in the genjutsu. And this is the problem when dealing with Minato, who's like, you know, on top of being the fastest guy ever, I mean, at least until the war, he can teleport. And this makes things much more interesting because then it becomes a ninjutsu fight and Minato has essentially Flying Raijin and the Rasengan while Itachi has all his abilities. And Minato would probably start by flooding the battlefield with the kunais, tossing like 24 kunais around Itachi and try to blitz him from all sides. Itachi, you know, there's an argument to say that, oh, Itachi wouldn't even be able to react to Minato blitzing him with a Flying Raijin, or trying to blitz rather. But I think he would be able to at least use the ribcage of the Susanoo, and the ribcage would tank anything that Minato throws against him. I guess, I mean, you were making the argument before that Minato with a Sage Mode enhanced Rasengan could maybe damage the ribcage, but I just don't think so. And so it would become like this battle of attrition where Itachi would have to find a way to just catch this very slippery opponent.
Well, something that I just thought about too, and Daigo, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are times that it seems like Flying Raijin, like the kunai itself, works in a similar property to something like Obito or Kakashi's Kamui, because, you know, whenever the Nine-Tailed shot the Biju bomb towards Minato while he was standing on the statue, Minato just put his kunai in front of the Biju bomb and it just sucked it right through and teleported it away. So
I think it's called the Flying Raijin barrier.
So I mean, anything that there's a good chance either like fire ninjutsu or Amaterasu, stuff like that, they get gets thrown at Minato. I mean,
I mean, honestly, like, I don't even see Itachi trying regular fire style because it would be kind of futile. I mean, Minato could probably dodge with speed alone. And Amaterasu, it wouldn't really be that effective either because Amaterasu, like, the dark flames, they spawn at the target. They don't travel from your eye to the target. They just spawn there. And then if the target dodges, then they travel from the spawn point to, like, the next point on your sight. Like, when the Raikage dodged Sasuke's Amaterasu, the fire spawned where the Raikage was, but he got out of the way before spawn, and then the Amaterasu traveled to that samurai that was behind the Raikage. Yeah. So I don't think that jutsu would be very useful against Itachi per se, but like, it would be very difficult to catch Minato.
Well, speaking of Amaterasu to the Flying Raijin kunais, we were talking about this earlier. Like, usually, if it was just like 1 to 3 kunais or whatnot, that Minato was bringing with him, and he tried to teleport to them, it'd be a lot more likely that Itachi can get all of the kunais off the battlefield with Amaterasu. But usually we see like Minato backpacking like 12 plus kunais in his pouch and just throws them all around the battlefield, similar to how it was with the Raikage and B. And so I don't know, even in theory, if Itachi was able to Amaterasu every single one, I mean, that still leaves Minato with at least 1 kunai to teleport to if he throws it or whatnot. Yeah. But that also deteriorates Itachi's eyesight significantly. I mean, that's 12 uses of Amaterasu. That's crazy.
I mean, I guess you could say that if the kunais are in close proximity, he can just like use one quote-unquote charge, like one large Amaterasu charge to like burn that entire section of the ground where they are. And that would also debilitate Minato's fighting ability a little bit, at least, because he wouldn't have access to all those flying Raijin beacons, but he can also mark things with his hand, like without having to use a kunai, which would not make it as detrimental for Minato. However, there's also the possibility for, and this is probably extremely difficult to pull off, but if Itachi manages to predict the kunai or the spot that Minato is going to teleport to, he could time it, very finely tuned to Minato's teleportation, and Amaterasu, the spot Minato is going to teleport, a split second before he teleports, so that when Minato arrives, he's like burning in the dark flames.
Yeah.
And I think it would be very difficult to pull off, but it could be a strategy that Itachi would try to come up with. Then again, if Minato manages to even like touch Itachi in any capacity, he would mark Itachi because that's what he always does whenever he touches someone, like Obito, Killer Bee's tentacle, and stuff like that. And if Itachi is marked, then he's done. Like, there's nothing he can do about it.
And on that
I guess
note,
you could like cut off his arm or something to get rid of the mark.
Yeah. Well, on that note, before anybody says like, well, you can't guarantee that Minato can, mark Itachi. That's okay. Listen to me. That's fair. But if you look back at his catalog, every time Minato attempts to mark somebody, they get marked. So, I mean, he has a pretty good track record when it comes to getting the Flying Raijin mark on an opponent. So I'm not saying it's a guarantee that he can't, but it does look
I guess the
better.
only opponents he didn't mark were Jubito, which Tobirama marked instead.
Yeah.
And I guess Madara.
That was, but he didn't even attempt to mark Madara. Though. That was,
yeah, I guess you could say that too. Yeah.
So I mean, everybody he attempts to mark, he ends up marking them somehow.
So what we can, like, if we're trying to look at this from Itachi's perspective, he could recognize that, okay, Minato is faster than I am, and it's just really dangerous for him to approach me at all. I have to use my Susanoo ribcage, or even like the corporeal Susanoo out of the gate to make sure he's not gonna come close to me, because he can slash me, he can use a Rasengan on me, and that'd be bad. So he wouldn't be marked if he takes a very cautious approach, though this approach would cost him a lot more chakra and eyesight.
Yeah, and also too, like, Minato does have summons. I don't know how Gamabunta would even fare. I mean, I'm assuming he'd either get Amaterasu or Totsuka Blade as soon as
that's a non-issue. I don't think he would even bring Gamabunta to this type of battle, because
I
would be a detriment to him.
Yeah.
Like, he didn't summon Gamabunta to fight Obito, for instance, so I don't think he would
true.
Here.
I think I'm just gonna have to keep agreeing with my earlier video, that because I said in that video that I think Minato wins 7 out of 10. And before anybody gets triggered, in that past video, people got triggered because I said that Minato wins 7 out of 10 times. And I don't think people are understanding what 7 out of 10 means. I think they just assume that because it's Minato wins overall, it's a stomp.
Some people assume it's a level of difficulty, but it's not. It's how many times out of 10 Minato would win the fight, meaning that Itachi would win 3 out of 10, meaning that it could go either way.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there are definitely chances for Itachi to take. It's Itachi, come on. But like, I don't know. We just think that Minato has too much going for him in this fight over Itachi. That's pretty much it. We're not saying it's a one-sided stomp. We're not saying Minato eclipses Itachi in every aspect, because honestly, I feel like they're really comparable in terms of being capable fighters.
I think Itachi is smarter and has a better battle IQ than Minato. And honestly, I can't see this fight going either way, but most times times, if you don't go into like narrative arguments of how a character would make a plan to affect the other depending on where they fight or the circumstances, it would probably end up being a battle of attrition, and Itachi would fare poorly in that because of the nature of his jutsus and eventually lose.
Maybe the best way to say this is that Minato has the best chance of surviving this fight rather than like getting the actual maybe like that's like because again like you said this fight can go either way, so like maybe like saying that Minato survives 7 out of 10 is a better way of saying it's concluding this fight rather than like
I would give Minato the edge like 6 to 7 out of 10 times. I think it's a fair estimation, and yeah, it would be a very interesting fight to see, and like Minato and Itachi are like the two most popular characters in the series after Naruto, I guess. If there's a fan animation one day of those two, a good one, like everybody would love it. It would just be very contentious about the winner.
I'm about to say whoever makes that, God help you, because
they probably have to do two versions, like or they just like it ties, they both go away or something like that. But anyway,
I'm about to say depending on who you make win, you might get some hate mail. But so yeah, moving right along to the 5th Hokage, Tsunade. Now look, I love Tsunade. Tsunade's awesome, but like, no, don't get me wrong. She lands one punch on Itachi himself, he's done for. But like, it's not gonna.
She's only a punch on Itachi.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I honestly like Tsunade loses to strategy alone, and that's not to say that Tsunade is stupid. Like, she's far from it. But Itachi is on another level when it comes to being a tactician against Tsunade, and like, I mean, Itachi just has too much in his arsenal that Tsunade just cannot compete with. Plain and simple. I mean, for starters, that we see, she has no long range attack, so she is pretty much a sweeper and a tank.
You can make the argument for Katsuyu spitting acid.
Yeah, but like that's even if she can even quick enough to get Katsuyu on the field before she's
one Materasu she's done. Like, sure, maybe she can keep healing with her regeneration abilities until like she runs out of chakra, but the dark flames are gonna keep on burning her, and I really don't see Tsunade dodging a Materasu or anything like that.
The only thing I could maybe, this is a stretch, but if I had to give something to Tsunade, the only thing I can maybe see is because she somehow was able to break, I guess, I don't know, or like wake up Kakashi and Sasuke from their coma from the Tsukuyomi, that somehow she might have an immunity to Tsukuyomi magically, but like I seriously doubt that's the case. It's just something that I'm trying to give Tsunade in this fight, because other than that, there's really
even if she's immune to Tsukuyomi, if we assume that, Itachi doesn't need to use his Mangekyo Sharingan to win this fight.
Yeah, I know that was a stretch. It was more of a joke, but it's one of those things that it's actually pretty impressive that she was the only person to kind of get them out of that.
Oh, so, yeah, for sure.
I mean, but other than that, yeah, I don't think Tsunade is lasting, so I give this one to Itachi about 10 out of 10. Like, I think I made the same argument for, let's switch the scenario just a little bit for Tsunade. I made this same kind of argument in my Sakura video that I did against the Akatsuki. The best case I can say for Tsunade in this fight is if it's sick Itachi, right? Sick Itachi that's fought Sasuke. Tsunade has to have every bit of information that she can get on Itachi, and if she is able to run the clock out by healing herself or whatnot, and is able to stay on the defensive long enough for Itachi to burn his chakra or lose his eyesight, maybe she gets a lucky hit in, but
that's assuming she's immune to Genjutsu.
No, I know, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is like the biggest outlandish thing that I can give her in this fight. I'm just trying to give Tsunade something, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, maybe it's a little bit unfair. But
it's pointless.
Yeah. So moving right along. Now, this one, I will have to give a two-sided scenario to this one, because there are people both sides of the coin here. Going on to the 6th Hokage, Kakashi. Now, y'all know me. I am the Kakashi stan. I specifically the Hokage Kakashi stan. Like, I love me some Hokage Kakashi. But I do understand to an extent why people are not like so hot on saying or using the feats from the novels as canon in power scaling videos. I get it, but there are people who do. So what I'm going to do for this section is I'm going to use two separate sides of the scenario. If it's Kakashi that is not from the novels and the Kakashi that is from the novels. If it's Kakashi from the novels or that is not from the novels, I think Itachi wins. Because novels feats aside, there's not a whole lot that he has. I mean, Purple Lightning's definitely like top tier as far as like, power, like packing a punch. But if you're not taking the feats from the novels into account, then he doesn't have the speed feats. He doesn't have the Sharingan to resist any kind of genjutsu that Itachi has. So
problem is, I'd only say this: if you take Itachi's novel feats, Kakashi's novel feats, you'd also have to take Itachi's novel feats, and those are also crazy. I don't read the novels. I don't care about them. They're all pretty much just power fantasies for the titular character, in my opinion. So I don't care about them.
That's why this section is going to be like kind of on me. So like I said, if it's Kakashi that's not from the novels, then I think it's relatively in Itachi's favor. I'd say about about 8 to 9 out of 10. But if we're using the Kakashi feats from the novels, then I personally think that Kakashi just has way too much that, I mean, now granted, Tsukuyomi is still a battle ender. Like, that is like 100% the truth. But if we are taking this Kakashi's knowledge into account, then he will likely know not to look Itachi directly in the eye. Now, granted, that's not a guarantee that he can't get caught with Tsukuyomi. It's definitely still possible. But the speed feats that Kakashi has in the novels is putting him at least on par, bare minimum, at the Raikage's level of speed. At least in terms of reaction speed. So jutsus like Amaterasu will probably not likely be effective. At least not right from the get-go. Like, Itachi will have to do some really clever planning in order to get Amaterasu, which is, again, possible. But Kakashi also has a new jutsu called Fire Style Water Mist Jutsu, which is a giant, the way the book describes it, it's almost like a giant summoning flaming phoenix that's able to shoot individual attacks from its own mouth that was strong enough to overpower a Sage of the Six Paths ninja tool water style jutsu. It was at an elemental disadvantage and was still able to overpower it with little difficulty. And again, the way the book describes it, Kakashi's able to shoot it out of his hand like in a split second. So it takes him no time for him to summon the jutsu. Purple lightning is also a problem, so to speak, in a way, because it's able to be used several different ways. It's able to be used from his hand, similar to the lightning blade, just not as fast. He's able to use it from a distance, like a long range projectile, similar to the lightning hound or lightning fang that he uses in the pain fight. And he's also able to use it that's similar to Sasuke's Chidori stream, that it's from his own body, is almost like a defensive move. So, and then he also has the earth style quartz mud wall, which is like a mud wall that's big enough to surround an entire village, and he's able to keep it up for a whole day. And so, I don't know, it just, Kakashi's strength, chakra, and speed and jutsu variety is a lot for Itachi to contest with. But what I will say is, if we're going as battle of attrition, that Itachi with his Susanoo, Yadamir, and Totsuka blade, maybe it's a good chance. But I just think that with prior knowledge, I know I'm talking like in circles, but I just feel like this Kakashi has way too much that Itachi might have to deal with. But, and when it comes to like regular genjutsu, it's not going to really work on Kakashi. So it's like Tsukuyomi is his best bet in order to win this fight. So if it's Kakashi from the novels, then I will say that Kakashi wins 8 to 9 out of 10 times. I know that's crazy and outlandish, and people will probably think I'm crazy for saying that, but that is just me. I definitely think there's a chance that if Itachi does hit Tsukuyomi, then it's done, because it just takes a split second for him to hit Tsukuyomi, it takes a split second once Tsukuyomi is already landed for Itachi to just kind of, poke him with the Totsuka blade when he's under the Genjutsu. So that's what I think. Yeah, sorry, Daigo, I was rambling there. I know I had to take this section for myself, so I apologize for that.
Like, Itachi would probably stay in like the middle of the Raikage rankings if he was ranked with him. Like,
you mean the Hokage ranking?
Yeah, like it would be like Naruto, Hashirama, Minato, then maybe like
Itachi,
Kakashi, Tobirama, or Itachi, like kind of in the same tier, I'd say, pretty close to each other. Though Itachi would probably be a bit above them. And if you're taking the novels, then Kakashi a little bit above them. And then, Hiruzen, Tsunade.
Yeah, so I guess like the final ranking for us would be, so Naruto, Hashirama. For me, when it comes to this placement, I'm very fluctuating, but I'm putting Kakashi at above Minato, and then Minato, then Itachi.
Wait, what?
Yeah, you'll have to watch my Hokage video, but yeah, I'm putting at bare minimum, I think that like they're neck and neck with each other, Kakashi and Minato. But after that, be Minato, Itachi, and then Tobirama, Hiruzen.
Obviously, Danzo would be number one if he was actually an official Hokage, but unfortunately, he was never instated.
Yeah, well, cry us a river, Daigo. Come on now. I'm just kidding. Maybe, honestly, one of these days we might do a video on that too, like where actually Danzo would rank among the Hokage if he were actually in office.
Yeah, I mean,
it
would do terribly because people don't click on Danzo videos, but
I know that is true. We would have to like do some clickbait, like Danzo stomps every Hokage. Anyway, so there y'all have it. There's Itachi's, hypothetical ranking if he was in the Hokage tier. Again, this is just our opinions. Just let us know in the comments what you think. If we're going crazy,
and it's the right opinion.
I know, like the biggest contention we're gonna get in the comments is gonna be the Minato section, like 110%. I might get some flack from like the Kakashi section, but I feel like Minato and Itachi's like particular section is gonna get us in the most trouble. But yes, let us know in the comments what y'all think. If there's something that we did miss, one thing I will leave off at though, for the Minato and Itachi section, for those of you who are gonna comment that Minato looked Obito directly in his eyes, quote unquote, when they fought and with the Nine Tails attack, that's gonna, like, don't even bother. Like, first of all, Minato was like several feet away from Obito, so like you don't really know if he was looking directly in his eye. Like, even if that was the case, he'd probably pick up on the fact that, like, oh, your eye is red, like you have a red eye, that must be, you know, Sharingan. He didn't even pick up on the fact that he was like that he had a Sharingan. Now granted, like when he sucked him in the first time, he was like face to face, but that was Obito sneaking up on Minato in the first place. So, but I don't know, I guess I'm sounding redundant, but I got people in the comments saying that Minato did look directly in Obito's eye, so if Obito wanted to put him in the Genjutsu, he could have immediately. And so I don't know, like you don't really know what Minato was actually looking at, so that's all I'll say.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
but there y'all have it. Thank you, Daigo, so much for being on the channel again.
thanks for having me.
Make sure you subscribe to the Daigo's channel too. I'll leave a link for his channel in the description below. Make sure you like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And until the next one, the lightning blade is out.